Well, welcome. Today, Lauren, Christine, and I are going to be talking about Sun transits 26 and 11. So we're going to search around, see what we find, and what we can play with over the next two periods of 5.5 days. Go into a little bit of retrospective about what happened in the last two Sun transits and what was coming up. So, Lauren, you had some things on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this right mid gate five, correct? The gate of waiting and fixed rhythms and finding our rhythm. And this is not a gate I have in my design, but I'm feeling it in a really nice way. I have, things have slowed down here. And so that I have a little bit more time, which I would have this tendency to fill. And this gate, the awareness of it is helping me pause and go, why don't you write that idea down and see how you feel about it 10 days from now or even a month from now? And so that's been a really nice practice. And, the truth is, I think this is what we're always supposed to be doing is pausing, just before we jump into something. And I think it's just been that. It's just been a good practice of what could become a habit.
It's interesting. It's like you said about pausing and stepping back. It's been a time that's been like hugely domestic in its way for me.
Yeah.
And it's just like just taking the time and like baking bread and making soup
Mhm.
and just sort of being in the moment with what is rather than rushing from this to this. It's been very pleasant. And I feel like I'm about to get boosted out of it for some reason.
Lois, I hadn't really thought about how I am, where I am putting my energy, but I too am doing a lot of domestic things and a lot of like, let me organize that thing that I haven't done. So again, it's that's those small tasks that we're being asked, what can we do in small bits?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because Gate 5 is kind of known for this like setting of your own personal rhythms, right? Like, and so it is like these domestic tasks are, I mean, I guess you could make them out to be somebody else's, things that you're fulfilling, but mostly these things we do because we're wanting to do them, right? Like we want to clean this drawer right now, right? Not because somebody's asking us to, or I want to make this pot of soup. Unlike so much of our life that is driven by, the outside. So I can see this, and as you're speaking, I can hear you guys both talk about this idea of like, yeah, this is what I wanted to do. It was kind of a quiet little chore, and this is how it felt. It felt like a good time to do it, and that really speaks to that personal, um, just rhythm, I guess is the word, but there's something else there too, just your own, like the beat of your own drum kind of thing, right? You're just like, this is what I want to do now for me. Right?
And
Well,
it's good.
that just the hearing the word rhythm, and Lois, I bet you have experience. There is a rhythm to the work. I can feel much differently than I would have in another stretch of time. I tend to be like go pretty fast, slow down, go pretty fast, slow down in most things that I'm doing. And this feels very steady.
More flow.
Yeah. Yeah, almost like a metronome is keeping me in sync with maybe it's the Earth's metronome I'm listening to.
The Earth's heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's really cool. How about Gate 9? I'm just curious. Did you guys have any focus things come up for you? I had a conversation with my son. We both had like interesting little, you know, hyper focused things that showed up for us that I was like, that seems very Gate 9. So,
Like topics, Christine, that were really specific.
yeah, yeah, like he and I both had like like all of a sudden I got in my brain that I'm like, oh, I think I may have to think about this. Like a long time ago, I had a health thing, And I've never had any real problems with it since, but for whatever reason, this past week, I was like, oh my God, I think I might have this again. I may have to think about, and it was in my head, like I couldn't get it out, right? Like there was like one like little physical symptom that I was like, well, that was like when I was sick all those years ago. But I don't actually think I'm sick, but I couldn't, like, my mind kept at it. Like, I could not get my mind off of it. And I was saying that to my son, and he also had kind of a similar thing, but he struggles with some of that more than I do anyway. But he also relayed this thing about he had all of a sudden one day, I think like on 9.4 that day, he was just like, oh, I want to go do this thing in this game that's super, like, it apparently to play this game you have to this part of the game it's just really mundane, like you have to go and you have to do this thing over and over and over again in order to reap some reward, right? And there's just no other way to do it than to just do, like, to grind through it. But he had this whole like, I want to go do that right now, and they did, and he was, like, he had all this focus for this one mundane thing that I thought was kind of a cute, like, that sounds like a very Gate 9 thing too. So I was just wondering if that had shown up for either of you in any way.
It hadn't for me, but it did. You're just sort of highlighting the upside and the downside of all of these things. It's like where that could be a real problem for someone, and yet it could be really beneficial at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I think we talked about it in the last transit thing, right? Like this focus can be great. It can also really put you in a place, and that's what it did for me. It was kind of interesting. So, yeah. So it's just interesting, like I said, to notice these things. And this is, I think, partly why we're doing this, right? It's just bringing this kind of stuff to
Yeah.
our conscious awareness and just noticing. And also, it just gives us a different, like, for me, I was like, like, I really did have this thing. Like, do I have to pay attention to this thing? Do I have to go, like, to a doctor or something? Like, this seems crazy to do that. And it was like another data point. It was like, yeah, it may also just be this energy to not let go of something, right? So it was, useful, I guess, in that way. Um, but yeah, so we're exiting Gate 5 right now. We're going to enter Gate 26 on the 8th of December, I think, or the 9th. I can't remember.
Ninth.
9th,
Ninth.
9th, sorry. I wrote down the wrong date. So the 9th of December. And so Gate 26 is the Egoist. It's also called the Taming Power of the Great. You might remember that I think Gate 9 is the Taming Power of the Small. So it's kind of interesting. They're fairly close together here. And there's only two of these gates that have taming power. And so apparently, I just read something that Ra wrote. Apparently, these are both considered quite powerful gates, right? This taming power is quite an amazing power to be able to tame things, right? To tame your brain, to keep it focused. And in this way, this gate is in your heart, your ego center, and it's called the little ego in our heart center, and it is this energy to um of ego. It really is a straight up ego kind of gate, and it doesn't have such a great reputation in human design. Like this, often you'll hear people be like, "Oh yeah, Gate 26, the gate of the liar," and it's like, well, it's really not quite that, but it is an energy to like manipulate things, and that could be for good or evil, right? Just like we were just talking about. This is a really powerful energy to be able to manipulate the truth. It's got an association with Gate 44 in the spleen, and together they come together to make this channel of surrender, which is which is colloquially called the salesman channel, right? This ability to sell ideas or sell things in the world to other people. And again, we have mixed feelings about how we feel about salesmanship in this world too, right? But this energy really is about, in its highest expression, about selling things of value to people that need it. Essentially, selling the what's needed to the future. Essentially, like getting people on board with knowing how to correctly behave. Essentially, and so there's a skill and ability to manipulate in order to get people to be influential, right? And so I don't know really what to think about this gate, the energy around it. I'm kind of curious because it is a really powerful gate. It is in this ego center. There's only 4 gates in the ego center. So there is that kind of like powerful energy. And then there's also all of this stuff around, is it out there doing good things, right? So I don't know. I'm just curious to see what y'all have to say about it.
Well, you said the ego, like it has a very negative connotation, like especially for people that are on sort of a spiritual path. It's like it's something that this perspective that it's something you should get rid of. And yet, if we were to get rid of it, we would probably be at the mercy of everything around us because it has this really strong role in protecting us. And so having it in its appropriate place in our life makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, it's there to make sure that we don't get into trouble. And but it's like when it takes over and it's like almost like we identify with our egos and then we like get aggressive about it. And like you were talking about this sales thing, and I remember because it's been kind of a thing for me my entire career. And this one woman who she came, I just went and I learned about shameless self-promotion, and I went, ugh. But so it's whether what place is it coming from? Because like in the Gene Keys with the shadow and the gift, if it's coming from the gift, it's coming from a healthy place. And if it's coming from the shadow, it's probably there's some sort of control going on with it, making me better, or which then involves putting somebody else down. Whether as I can put myself out there as they've got this gift to offer, but that doesn't diminish everybody else's gift. It's a very different place.
Mhm. I have a lot of different thoughts, so I want to try to corral them. One thing that I want to share is through the I Ching, there's always a reference to nature, but particularly to farming. And this particular hexagram is related to how the farmer restrains and controls the energy of nature. And Christine, I thought right away of your bringing up, well, how is it being used? And we have very clear examples out there of farms that are not using it for the benefit of the people in the surrounding area or the land or numerous things. Or there are people that work with it in a way that it's serving the higher purpose, which like that's what you're alluding to, Lois, is how is this power of the great being used? Because we have for this 5.5 days, we have access to it. So how will it be put to use? And this farming example obviously speaks deeply to me, but I think it's a real visual for folks. It's not hard to drive down a highway and see conventional farming and agribusiness out there and go, is this a good use of nature's reserves, or are there other ways that I might prefer for them to be utilized? And so for me, that picture comes really clear. And we are taming, but I know in my work right here, in whether I'm in the forest or the garden, there's some taming involved. I'm using it for the benefit, but what is it benefiting? I think that's the real question in these 5.5 days.
Yeah, I really like that. It also, to me, speaks to the dilemma from Richard Rudd's The Gene Keys. The dilemma of this gate is lack, right?
Mm,
And so I think a lot, and I've always thought a lot about this idea, especially in our culture, between, this tension we have between scarcity and abundance, right? And where we do things from, right? Do we do things like conventional farming? Are we conventionally farming out of this idea of abundance? No, we are absolutely not, right? We're doing these things out of this idea that if we don't beat nature into submission, it will not provide for us, right? So there's this general
yeah,
scarcity mentality that we
yeah.
start out with. And again, and if you've looked at, if you look at a permaculture farm or a regenerative ag farm, like you can see there's a different mentality. The mentality there is this is abundance, right? This abundance will come naturally out of this. We're just going to tame a little here and tame a little here, and we're going to let nature do the bulk of the work because nature is naturally abundant, right? That trust in abundance I think is really key to this idea of manipulation in this energy, right? And I think about this from that salesman perspective, right? Like, and we've all probably had this experience, like car salesman, that whether he cares or not, he gives you this idea that he doesn't care whether you buy a car from him or not, right? He comes at you with this sense of abundance. I don't need your car sale. I don't need your sale. So whatever, if you want to buy a car from me, great, right? Like that guy, even if he's play acting, I'm way more likely to buy a car from him, right? And just so I think that that may be something really to play around with in this time. Like, where are my own scarcity mentalities, right? Where am I feeling like I'm working out of a lack of something? And where am I feeling like I am trusting in the abundance of all that is?
Because people pick up on that neediness because there's a grasping nature to it, that need to hang on rather than I'm here to serve. I'm here because I need you to take my services so that I can live. And it doesn't even need to be said. And so, like with this salesperson, there has to be some reality in it, because if it was completely play acting, you'd be able to feel it.
Yeah. Well, and also there's pride here too, right? Like this is the shadow in this thing, right? And I think about pride also being very much a side effect of this lacking, this lack mentality, right? Like mostly people who feel actually safe and secure and, well within themselves don't behave out in the world in prideful ways, right? They don't need to. They're like, I'm good, right? But when we don't feel that internally, we often show up and go, we all know people who are arrogant, right? Like we all know that they're arrogant because they don't feel like enough, right? So they're putting on airs.
This really brings up this course on narcissism that I've been engaged with. And because we all have narcissistic characteristics in us, and they are there for a benefit, because when we use them, or our pride, we can call it whatever we want to, and we're using it to put us out there and deliver something to the world for its benefit, that's a beautiful thing. Or are we using it for our own limelight? And that's really the question. I think an important word I've heard from both of you is service. It is what I'm doing of service of others, and I think that's probably true. A true word to consider in each one of these gates, and because if it isn't, then we're definitely working with the lower energy of it, if it's only serving us, or maybe not even serving us. If it's okay, I want to tap right into the Gemmo here and the question. And again, I said there's a lot that's coming up with this gate for me, but also just in the bigger picture. One of the things, for the first time in all the weeks we've been doing this, that I realized this switch in Hillary Barrett's questions, how she goes from what questions to how questions. And I don't know why I never noticed it, but the last gate 5 was a how question. Gate 26 is a how question, and gate 11 is a how question. So it makes me think we've been in this time of what are we going to do? What are we focusing on? What stays, what goes? We've had a lot of that. And now it's like, how are we going to work with what is, which is pretty in line with right where we are in the world. Like, okay, this all is, but how are we going to navigate it? How will we be of service in amongst it? Which takes me right to the Gemmo. So the Gemmo I'm thinking about with this, because we have this great potential and this power, and what we're trying to do is tame it, is Fig. And so I want you to think about one of the most powerful actions that the human body does is digest. And we all know someone in our family, or maybe it's us, that has digestive issues. And because it hasn't been tamed, it's gone wary this way or that way. And either there's too much energy or there's not enough. In Chinese medicine, we might look at heat there, or where the qi is blocked. But Fig, the job of Fig is to actually, one, slow things down, which is what restraining control is about. So we're going right back to the farmer. Let's slow things down and let's use this energy that's there efficiently. And that's when the body can absorb nutrients properly and all the other systems do the work that they do. And Fig also, when taken in microdose, works with the vagal brake. So that's a whole nother thread that we could explore there with polyvagal theory. And the vagal brake's job is when we start speeding up to not have us lose regulation, but to restrain the energy. Yes, you can move quickly of service in your actions. So lots there, a number of threads, but I'm hoping that one or more of those lights up something in you and you can have a better sense of this time period.
Yeah. When you mentioned like with the vagal brake, in the digestive system, but I was thinking that it also connects to this idea of this gate being the egoist.
Sure.
And in this like taming of the ego, that rather than looking at getting rid of the ego, is how about getting to know the ego? You know, because I mean, it's like when we're mobilized in polyvagal theory, our ego is activated.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in there deciding what do we need to do this, the best thing to do here. And again, from what our intention is makes the difference about whether that's a good thing or not. But just like paying attention to when does my ego get triggered? When am I feeling that lack or when am I feeling lesser than? And so what's really going on here? You know, are these just stories I'm telling myself? Or is this something I really need to be paying attention to because there's a danger? Is there a true danger? I think is a big question.
Yeah, well, we are just telling ourselves stories. That's always the answer, right? But, but the ego, I think, is particularly susceptible to those stories, right? The ego isn't really, it's not an embodied part of us, right? It really is in our mind, right? We are thinking who we are as much as anything else, right? And we are being told by others who we are, and we are being reflected in the world as who we are, what that ego is. And so I really like this idea of Fig because also, we're not just digesting food, we're digesting information all the time too, right? And so this could be a great support for this point where, if we really are trying to figure out what our stories are about ourselves and what's true and what's not, I think Fig would really be a helpful addition there. So.
And if you've got problems going on, the different things that you're struggling with, the digesting of that is particularly difficult. So.
Yeah, it seems like it might be something good to take right on through the holidays.
Maybe.
Yeah, and so we're gonna move out of 26 on 13th, December 14th, we'll step into gate 11. Um, we'll be at the tail end of Sagittarius season with gate 11, and so and we'll also be getting very close to the new moon and solstice at that time of year too. So it's going to be, there's always a lot going on, I think, every year for everyone this time of year. So it'll be interesting. Just think about this gate 11 as we're walking into this very busy part of the year, what that's like. Um, Gate 11 is the gate of ideas. It's also called, the hexagram is called peace, which seems pretty appropriate for the season, which is nice. And there is this real idealism energy in this energy. It is a head gate. It's in our ajna. It is connected um, through this gate 56, this kind of the channel of stories into the throat, right? So there is this kind of storytelling idea around or energy in this activation. And it is, in the gene key, it is the obscurity, idealism, and light are the three ways, I guess, of this energy. And so there may be in this time period this idea of obscurity, right? One of the things associated with ideas is having a lack of ideas, not knowing what to do. Like the polarity is also always true. Things can feel obscure, right? So there may actually be some of that in this time frame. Like I am not seeing the thing. I do not have any ideas, or I am fresh out of ideas, right? And this also kind of happens this time of year, I think, to all of us too. We get busy, we're overwhelmed, we're trying to get all these things, and our brain is just like enough. And so that could all be happening in the background for everyone. So yeah, so just give yourself some space, right? And see what's coming through or not, and no judgment. Right?
I was curious about this because, like you've talked about, we've moved into this strongly young energy after the being in the yin energy for so long. And this hexagram is made up of the masculine and the feminine, right? Because there's the three broken lines on top and the three solid lines on the bottom. And it just made me curious about because it's been in this strong masculine push going on. And is there something in this gate that's mediating that in some way, or a possibility of it?
I don't know. I've never, it's interesting, Lois. I've never really thought about it that way. I mean, there's the other hexagram, I'm sure, that's heaven over earth too. So I should look at that, and I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head. But, um,
Or where it sits in the transits, even too.
right, yeah, yeah, I could look it up, but I don't have it off the top of my head. But yeah, I think that's really interesting. It is, you're right. It is the mix of pure feminine and pure masculine energy, the yin and the yang. Um, Yeah, I wish I had an actual good response.
Well, and I know Richard Rudd talks about like the left and right hemispheres of the brain, and there's sort of this a period of time of the opportunity of those coming together more effectively, where we like the left brain has been, I always get them mixed up. The left brain has been valued more for its that more masculine, more systematic, logical way of thinking, and yet there's all of the feminine that's always coming up in our lives, and we don't pay attention to it. And like you, Lauren, I've been doing a course that's about archetypes, and so they're just being so aware of how much of that is coming up in the right brain. And there's all of these messages coming that are not clearly logical, but they're coming anyway. They come in our dreams, they come in our fantasies. And it's like, how do we work with them better?
Mm. Well, maybe there's something here with Hilary Barrett's writing on Hexagram 11, because the question is, how will you work with this extraordinary potential? So what we've got is we've got the full masculine, the full feminine potential there, which is I would say, the most full expression of one's creativity coming through. So I think maybe if we look at it that way, and it's coming through, and we've got this word for it, flow. Like we need to manage the flow of it coming through, and that this is a time about creating harmony with the flow. So how will you work with this extraordinary potential is really interesting, coming right after gate 26, where her question was, how can you make the most of the potential that is? And then now, how will you work with this even greater potential? So it feels to me right there that gate 26 is preparing us to move into this power of gate 11. Is there something in human design that would indicate that, Christine?
Yeah, I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying and I agree with you, but I can't really map it directly other than, I mean, gate 26, like I said, is in this egos, this heart space, which is very much about the material plane, right? And so we'll be in this space where we're trying to figure out how to make things happen on the material plane. And then we'll
Right.
be moving into this ajna space, which is much more about, again, like ideals, idealism, and this mental
Right.
energy, right? So, um, yeah,
I
I
think
don't, I
that's
don't,
enough to explain it. That makes sense to
okay.
me.
Okay, good.
I'm, I can stretch there. Another thing, though, that I want to make sure gets said, because you talked about this could be a time of obscurity, right? As the sun transits, we've got Mars squaring Neptune, and Neptune is all about obscurity and veiling and confusing things, and then later on dropping the veil. So if I remember right, when we met with Anastasia, she discussed that. So that might be something that comes up for everyone. I just have to say this there's a bobcat walking right in front of my house right now. So I'm sure that might have some answers for us. I'll look them up real quick.
Well, the answer to what were you looking at was there.
That's right. Well, this whole like, what is, how do we flow between these? But it certainly distracted me. So someone take the bait from here.
When I was just saying, the bait made me think about animals and the collective nature of this particular gate. I mean, it feels very individual, but recognizing that there's a collective aspect to it. As I was just reading about some research that was done with monkeys around their fear of snakes. And it turns out that even if they've never been around a snake, they've been like, born and bred in a zoo, that even if you put a snake skin in where they can see it, they know it's there and they know that they're supposed to be on alert. And that, I mean, it's like all of the things we see animals do where they just know, like, how do the geese know where they're going? That kind of thing is, there's these deeply embedded ways of thinking and symbols in the collective. And so sometimes it's hard to know, is this just mine or is this something that's just going on for everybody?
Yeah, I think that's true. And you're right, Lois, this gate 11 is a collective gate. And I think the thing that, you're pointing to there sounds to me is like, I think this collective unconsciousness is much more broadly shared by all the beings on the planet, right? It's, there's a lot of people that have a hard time ascribing it even to humans, but I think that there's a lot of indication that, we are all things are sentient on this planet and all things are connected at some level, right? And so can we tap into that? Or not, right? And again, the reason we don't tap into it is mostly our stories, right? There's a lot of indication that humans before, long before us, humans have always tapped into these things. They were always aware of these things, right? And it's just recently that we've lost that awareness, right? So yeah, so gate 11, it is part of the channel of curiosity, right? It may just be a great time to just allow yourself to be more curious, right? Who knows what you might discover.
Well, here's a gem. Oh, I was going to give you a Gemmo to help with that, but go ahead, Lois.
Oh, no, well, and I was thinking about a sort of more coaching aspect. So do the Gemmo and then we'll.
Well, I think this would certainly help us settle into a place where we could be more curious. And this is Olive. And Olive is about flow and it's about making space for the flow to occur. So, what you were just talking about, Christine, was removing the stories or obstacles that get in the way from the flow that's coming through. And that's exactly what Olive's purposes, and it's a harmonizer that would create some spaciousness. And I think that, in combined with whatever practice you're going to offer Lois, will be exactly what we need.
Good timing here. But what I was thinking about was this tapping into that you referred to, Christine, that ancient cultures did. And like there's so many different ways that we could do that to get more in touch with the right brain and bring them more together. But I mean, it could be things like art therapy or getting involved in some sort of like mystical way of knowing. Like I practice Reiki. And I mean, there's nothing logical about that at all, but it's incredibly informative. Or paying attention to like what are the archetypes that are showing up in your dreams? Like, what are they telling you? I mean, they're giving you clues to something. And so not being afraid to take a look at that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think also another very simple practice is simply allowing yourself to channel yourself, right? To just pick up a pen and say, what does my higher self want me to know?
Yep.
And just see what comes out. Because it can be amazing. Because there's all kinds of stuff in there that we're just not aware of until we allow it to come through us.
And this is such a beautiful time to start a new practice. We're moving into a new moon right there as the gate comes to a close. Starting a new practice at the start of a new moon will give you that energy to carry it forward. So if you've never been able to start any of these practices before, this might be the time to do it.
Yeah, and I can also now more clearly, now that we've had this conversation, more clearly see like what might be the 26 and 11 combination, right? Like
Oh,
right? Like working on this ego, trying to move through some of these stories, trying to recognize which ones can be dropped, can allow you to be more open to, actually utilize the ideas and curiosities that are going to probably come through in this gate 11, right? You'll have fewer barriers, fewer
yeah.
guardrails and stuff.
Fewer inhibitions, maybe too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay for that.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we've come around full circle again. So thank you for being with us, and we hope we'll see you next time.